Welcome to the BS Your Way Through Life show. So happy to have you all here. I have a very special guest. He is Christian Flores. Did I say your last name correctly?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Great. Yes, nailed it. Anyway, Christian Flores, he is amazing. You can actually go, tell us your website. I want people to be able to know where to go
Oh, you
right
mean
away.
you mean my Substack,
Yes,
christianrayflores.com? Yeah,
yes,
yeah. Uh-huh.
yes, yes. So if you go there, there's amazing things on there. You need to subscribe to him. He's amazing. So tell us about you, Christian. Um, where you're from, like a little bit about your story, how you became and do what you do. Tell us about you.
So I do a few things. I'm a high performance coach. Um, I have another company that does brand strategy, brand development, media. We do some philanthropy as well. We have an after school academy in Maputo, Mozambique, helping some poor kids just get the character, computer literacy, and English language um, capacities to get out of poverty. The backstory is sort of tied to the things that I do, right? So
Right.
I uh, um, I am a third culture kid, so I grew up all over the world. This is my sixth country in my fourth continent. But I was,
Wow.
yeah, I in the beginning I went through a lot of change very quickly in rapid succession. So four countries, three continents by age 7. Russia, Chile, Germany, and Mozambique, which is very, very
Wow.
different places. Yeah. And that's sort of probably, as always, right? Everything in that you do today is sort of rooted one way or another in your origin story. So
That's
I was
true.
I was able to learn a lot of things, learn how to read people, love people, understand culture, perspectives. Learned four languages by age 9. I got an education in
Wow.
economics, so sort of the business side comes
Intelligent
from that.
kid.
Yeah, well, I was actually not that intelligent. I was just forced to do it because I didn't have a choice. But I got a really good
Sounds like every
education,
kid.
an economics education, which sort of helps on the business side. I was very creative and ended up having an early success in my early 20s in show business. So I was a singer, entertained millions of people and produce others. So that sort of led to the digital media, marketing, strategy, brand creation, personal brand development part. And
Wow.
because I grew up in the third world, I really sort of developed in my early 20s, I developed a love for philanthropy. So I've done quite a bit of that all over the world. The coaching came a little bit later because I was at the peak of my career in my first career, and I was so lost and so messed up. And somebody came into my life that mentored me. He was this Canadian missionary, and he was my first coach essentially. Because I treated him like that, and just the impact that one person can have, even if you're super talented and maybe in the top 1% of what you do, having around somebody to guide you is such a game changer. And I learned that from personal experience because I just it changed my life. And I started being very, very interested in human flourishing and what makes us tick as human beings, what makes us flourish, what allows us to sort of open up our full potential. And that's essentially where the coaching thing started.
That's amazing. You know, I find amazing is like I feel like God puts people in our path. He's just like because you
Yeah.
obviously, I'm sure you've inspired thousands,
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of people, right? But he put that one person in your path to set you off on the path that he needed you to go.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
I
it.
just
So
find
I'm
that
a big
amazing.
believer in that people play this completely outsized role. And if you are lucky enough to be guided by the right person, it can change your life forever.
Oh, it's so true because like sometimes those people can be the answers to the prayers we didn't even know that we needed.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Yes. So, okay, so tell us about like so you became, kind of a motivational or teaching or whatever speaker. What is it that you teach people? What is it that you have ultimately come to?
Well, I think honestly on the highest level, and if you read my newsletter at my Substack, christianrayflores.com, it's devoted to the secrets and strategies for success and significance. That's
Okay.
essentially what it is. And
Let's talk about. So
yeah,
what if you know, I'm sorry, I'm interjecting. But so because I know personally I've struggled with this, and I'm sure every human being on this earth has struggled with, but how do we get success? Now that's a loaded question, right?
it's a
So
big question.
that
Yes.
let's break it down. I think because a lot of success doesn't really, it's not about how our life is going.
Hmm.
It's about ourselves and how we are self-sabotaging or we're stopping ourselves. I think we think, oh, I can't because, well, I've got 6 kids, you know, because that's my reality.
Yeah.
So, you know, my days are full of like school and dinner and, you know, cleaning house and whatever. So I can't do this thing that I feel passionate about. But that's not the truth. What is it that's actually stopping me from actually accomplishing what I want to do? What would you
Oh,
say?
but okay, so that's a separate question then. What's
Yes.
stopping you?
Okay.
That's a really good question. I would say I can give you three top reasons in my experience that stops people.
Yes.
Um, the first one is this. The first one is when you start off in life, you always are living somebody else's story. Always. And it doesn't mean that you're not being authentic. It means that in the beginning you imitate, right? You go, okay,
Right. That's
I
true.
think, I think this, I'm supposed to be a musician. I think I'm supposed to be an engineer because dot, 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 right? It could be
Hmm.
your environment, your family wants you to do it, or you have a predisposition towards math, for example. Whatever it is, you create a narrative, a story that is really a borrowed story most of the time to a large degree. And then as you mature, you start going, oh, this is not exactly my story. I need to make some corrections. And most people don't do that out of fear of uncertainty, of an uncertain outcome. So that's the first reason. One first reason is, you start off living somebody else's story, but then you stay living somebody else's story, and that becomes increasingly uncomfortable for you as you mature in age, because you go, you can feel it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you get emotional pain is a great signal because it just like your body sends you signals about something is off in your body with physical pain. It's like your soul, right? Your essence sends you emotional pain as a signal that
Ooh, I
something is
like that.
misaligned. You're living somebody else's story. You need to make some corrections.
I
So,
like that. That's good to
so
know.
that's one reason why people usually just don't succeed, whatever definition you want to use.
So it's kind of
This.
like it's because, you know, we have our physical, like you said, and physical pain, but then we have the spiritual side of it. And when we're not aligned spiritually and we're not doing, you know, what we feel called to do, well,
Hmm.
then you're
Hmm.
gonna get those spiritual signals, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's sort of emotional pain, right? So
Yeah.
I call it like if you want to use
Maybe
spiritual
depression
language,
or
yeah, all kinds of things like that. All kinds of emotional pain specifically, and I call it the whisper of the soul, right? It's very quiet, it's very gentle,
yeah.
and you ignore it, and then you sort of keep going on autopilot, and it sort of doesn't go away, and then it gets louder
Mhm.
and louder and louder
Yeah.
until you can't ignore it anymore. So that's one. The second one has to do with seasons, and it's basically this. We have four seasons vocationally, professionally, or in sort of that are in our calling. The first season is very simple. It's you're a student, right? Your kids
Yes.
are students. All the way to college, you're not really participating or shaping life. You're sort of observing, learning about life. You're looking at it from the outside in, and you're experiencing some things, but you're really more of a student than anything else. Then you sort of enter this adult life and you become a practitioner, right? You are
Right.
an engineer, a musician, a history teacher, whatever. And you're a practitioner of that thing. And early on, you're just happy that you're getting paid and you're doing something professionally and you're a
Right.
grown up, right? You can afford certain things. But then eventually you become better and better at this. And then there's a third season kicks in, which is mastery. And you are a master of that thing that you practice. And then the fourth thing is you're a master and you become a sage, right? So
Right.
in between those seasons, usually we get lost. We start spinning our wheels. The emotional pain again, right? Because those are signals. Hey, hey,
Right.
change, 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 change. And it's like, and every season expires, right? So if
Yeah.
you're a practitioner, like if you want to go to college, you can go to college. But if you're in your mid 20s and in college, you can feel the pain, right?
Right.
You want to start doing things.
Yes.
If you're a practitioner and you're sort of in an entry level position or you're in a mid level position, and now you've become so good, you go, you know what? I feel like I'm undervalued in this place. I feel like I can do more. I can expand to this, or maybe switch to something different and much more appropriate to my what my passion, my potential is. And but that's scary, right?
Yeah.
So in between season, you get like, I don't even know. I know how to be a practitioner by now. I don't know how to be a master of the thing. I don't know how to be a VP or a president or a founder of a new small business. Or you know what I'm saying? Or I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
And
I
it's like,
know things, but I need to write a book, or now I need to, I don't want to just play in small clubs. I want to have a record deal, because I'm a
yeah,
master. So that's the in between seasons
because we're
space where
always trying to evolve and we're supposed to.
yeah, but you get those in
Yes.
between places where you don't
Yes.
know how to do that.
Yeah. Or,
Uh,
maybe imposter syndrome sets in and you're like, I
that's right.
can't do
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
then when you're a master already, let's say you're senior executive or VP, or you start your own company, or you have a record deal. Um, and then it's usually so much work, and as the thing grows, the more successful you are, the more complex the thing is.
Right.
And you do that for a while and you build stuff, basically, right? You're a builder, you're a master builder. And eventually your next season kicks in. It's that season of Sage. And in that season, you start wanting to do more legacy stuff. You start wanting to invest in other people more than building stuff. So the thing that made you super happy and accomplished for 10, 20 years as a master becomes less appealing to you. It starts
Right.
irritating you, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you want to go, hey, I want to teach, I want to influence, I want to
Yes.
speak, I want to coach, I want to write books, I want to mentor, and you don't know how to go from master to sage. And again,
Right.
you start spinning your wheels. So most of the people that I work with, a lot of them are in between seasons, right? And I go, what's wrong
Right.
with me? And I go, this is totally normal, right?
It's
So this is,
normal.
yeah, it's totally normal. So anyway, so that's another reason why, people get sort of plateau. And I
I
think
love it.
the overarching reason, I would say, that one of the foundational ones is that when people get really addicted to certainty, and that means whatever. Okay, you have a cushy job, you're making enough money to just do the things that you want to do. You have a set of people, set of friends, set of coworkers, and it's sort of not bad, but it's also not really making you feel fully alive.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
because you're so married, so sort of devoted, I would say addicted to
Uh-huh.
certainty, the
Yeah.
predictability of life, the rinse and
Yeah.
repeat part,
Yep.
that the pain,
Security.
yeah, the security, the respect, sometimes the status,
Uh-huh.
that making a shift, that it could be lateral, it could be adjacent to what you do, it could be completely different, it could be
Yep.
up, it could be going off, spinning off
It
your
can
own
be
practice.
scary and uncertain.
Yes, and the scary part scares you so much because you are addicted to certainty and you just don't make the move, basically. So
Right.
those are in my opinion, those are the top things that I see like every day. Okay.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, if for example, a live example, one of my what I like to call her mentor, um, I found her online and she just spoke to me and I was just like, oh my gosh, she is speaking my language. And she built this. She helps women, specifically moms, become entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And she built this multi-million-dollar business, and then she had gotten so high, and then she just like, something's not aligning with me. And she tells the
Yeah.
story, it's amazing. She's like, and she'd done this amazing thing, and then once she'd fulfilled it, she just didn't feel aligned anymore, and then she started to hate her business, just like you
Hmm. That's
described,
exactly it. What
right?
made you
And
fired up in the beginning,
yeah,
all of a sudden, same
all
thing,
of a
nothing
sudden
changed.
she's hating it, and she's
Yeah,
just like,
you
I
don't
need
like
to
it
make a
anymore.
change. And so
Yeah,
she
that's
did. She
exactly it.
totally
Yeah.
ripped her multi-million dollar business apart and changed it to align with her,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
it's,
that's exactly how it
what's
happens.
supposed to
Yeah.
happen. And she's so happy and she's building it back up and she's still, succeeding and everything's going great for her
Yeah.
because she wasn't afraid to take that
Yeah,
step and
that's
do it.
exactly it. Yeah,
Yes.
that's right, Buffy. You got it. That's it. You don't need
Yay.
me.
Oh, are you kidding? Yes. You are like, I dabble, right? I have you
Yeah.
on here because you are doing. I
Yeah, that's
dabble,
right.
you do. So here we go. Okay. I'm gonna go back if you don't mind, unless you have something else you want to add on to what you just said. But I have notes here. I'm holding them up. So I was reading through your newsletters, and they are just amazing. And I really loved what you said, turning pressure into progress. Can we dabble on that a bit? Can
Oh
you
yeah.
like go
Uh-huh.
into depths in that one? I love that. So how do we do that?
So, there's a lot is being said. This is sort of a buzzword: resilience, resilience, resilience,
Yeah,
resilience. Right?
yeah,
Obviously, because we understand life is hard, regardless of where you are. Life will be hard. It doesn't stop being hard. It
that's
just
right.
is. So resilience seems to be this essential, like non-negotiable capability that people need to, nurture in themselves and be coached and learn and develop. Well, my point is that actually that's not enough, right?
Right.
Um, because resilience essentially what it means is that hey, you get hit by something in life and you keep going. That's resilience, right? You're
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
unchanged. You don't shrink. You don't run. You don't like collapse into a fetal position and sort of stop doing. That's a great thing, actually. It really is.
Yes.
But I would say my argument would be that the skill that you want is not resilience necessarily. Resilience is like more maybe like the minimum you need to
Yes.
get anything done.
Oh, yeah.
But what you need is anti-fragility. And anti-fragility is basically you get hit by something, bad news, crazy client, rejection, somebody doesn't want to invest in your firm, et cetera, et cetera. And you actually become better, stronger, faster because of it, not in spite of it.
I love it. Yes.
So that's
Because of it.
basically that's anti-fragility. Yeah. And
That's beautiful.
and my argument is that we were all actually wired for that. And it's like a muscle. You can actually grow that. You can grow your capability to be anti-fragile. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. You just need to do the work. And that's one of the things that I basically coach my clients in.
So what's an actual life story where you literally that you can apply this to like a situation, like instead of using resilience, like
Uh,
whatever struggle or trial you went through,
mhm.
you it actually benefited you and you used it to uplift your life.
So that's a great question. I can tell you maybe a list of things, but let me just let's see what will work well if I tell it in a concise way. Okay, so here's one. For example, I saw a lot of disruption, instability, danger early on in my childhood. So,
Right.
my dad was in a concentration camp. I was 5 years old. There was a military coup. There were people being arrested and killed and tortured all over the place in
Oh,
Chile.
it's terrible.
I was 5 years old. I
Oh
was a
my goodness.
refugee at age 5, in a United
That's
Nations
rough.
refugee camp. We moved a couple of times. We saw a lot of poverty, and we didn't have much at all. So it's not American poverty, but like poverty, poverty.
Right. Yeah,
We
no.
ended up. I lived in Africa for a few years in Mozambique, and there was a civil war going on early on, and we saw bombings and things like that. We, when I was in my early 20s, I saw the collapse of the Soviet Union, tanks in the streets, again, another military coup, like economic collapse, all of that stuff. Okay, so you go through a series of traumatic events that are very, very intense on all kinds of levels. Okay, what does that do for you? Well, if you know what to do with that, you become much more entrepreneurial. Why? Because you don't mind the risk.
Right.
You're not as fearful of things, right? You also become much more compassionate. So, for example, one of the things that I do is philanthropy, and I've done philanthropic work in Latin America, in Africa, in the United States, and Eastern Europe. And in different season I would do it more intensely. But for example, in Latin America, we had I was a director for Latin America for this big charity, and I would go into like this into the most dangerous places, like the favelas in Rio de Janeiro that was run by drug lords, into this poor barrios in Mexico or Tijuana. I would go to Guatemala into the mountains to help people that were affected by a landslide. Places that most sort of first world people, they just wouldn't go there,
Right.
because,
Yeah.
and I was comfortable to take calculated risks, for example, and be able
Yes.
to go and help. So an anti-fragile gain from
Yes.
growing up in places
Absolutely.
like that. Like 2 years ago, I went to Ukraine, literally during the war, and we had air sirens, and we had to like cross by foot over from Poland into Ukraine. We saw all of the stuff, right? Minefields, things like that. We're working with refugees there. So that's one anti-fragile quality. I am able to go into scary places, probably better, more
Than most.
optimistically than most people, right? So that's one. Another one, and I can list a long list, right? But
So you're able
another,
to take tragedy and help it move you forward as opposed to holding you back.
yeah, it gives you a superpower, and it gives you the
That's amazing.
capacity to help people, a compassion for people that are in extreme
And I
poverty,
think the
for example.
mindset is a lot because you
Yeah, yeah,
had a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of people who go through like horrible, tragical things, right? And they
that's right.
allow it to hold them back. They use it as a crutch as opposed to using it for a
Yeah,
stepping stool.
yeah. So there's a way for you to stop being a victim and becoming a victor, basically, for
Yes.
lack of a better word.
Yes.
So, and let's give you another example. So I moved 4 countries and 3 continents by age 7. I learned 4 languages by age 9, right?
Right.
So that's right there. What happened is I felt like an outsider a lot and very, very lonely, right?
Right.
So two things sprung from that sort of period of traumatic sort of changes. One is if you're trying to fit in as a kid, you really, really try hard to understand what people want, how people tick, culture, language, everything. You become this almost like you have an extra radar in yourself, to
Yeah.
read people, to understand the human condition. So, and that stays with you, right? So that makes
Yeah.
me uh, all kinds of better things, right? Because anything in life, success is about people. So I can take that and understand the culture of a place and create music that moves millions of people. Or I can lead a team, for example, in a nonprofit or in one of my businesses. I can connect to clients and know exactly what they're feeling more than even sometimes better than they do. So it gives you this really incredible superpower of being able to have insight into human nature, um,
That's beautiful.
because of that, right? You start
Right.
thinking, your mind operates at a different sort of levels that usually people don't have. Um, I became very creative, so I can create things that people would go like. For example, I wrote a book. This one right here. It's called Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America.
Awesome. I was gonna say, did you do you
Yeah,
have a book? I was
yeah.
pretty
So
sure
this
you
is the
did.
yeah. So this is the book I wrote, and basically, like normal people would write a book with some points and stuff like that.
Can you show it to us? It's kind of fuzzy. I want to see it closer.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
here,
beautiful.
yeah, this is the book. And
Okay.
then, so no, a normal person would write, okay, this is a good design, this is a good title, and then write a
Right?
book and, lay things. Uh, me, I will create 10 chapters for 10 reasons. I would illustrate it with all my crazy stories. I will add illustrations from my personal archives, photos, AI generated images. I'll put QR codes in every chapter, and then that overflows into videos that explain, give you more
Oh,
stories
that's
about the same book.
so
So,
cool.
so it's this very eclectic, very unique kind of piece of work.
Oh, I love it.
And to me, that's like, of course I did that, right?
Of
And for
course.
and people from the outside go, how did you think of that? I'm like, I don't know, So, and my point is, you become very creative when you're forced to sort of use your imagination quite a
Yes,
bit, yeah, early
it's
on.
true.
So anyway, so my point is, and that's just origin story stuff. But really, in real life, you can you can train yourself. You don't have to go through the stuff that I went to actually be anti-fragile. You just need to understand how anti-fragility works, and then sort of work on how to develop anti-fragile dimensions of yourself. It's actually not rocket science. So I really love teaching people that, and they can see themselves just changing and transforming and accelerating in their growth.
I love that so much. That is so good. Anti-fragility.
Yeah.
There's tongue tied all the time. Um, so okay. So how do we okay, I had another question here. How do we push past okay, so it's really hard. How do I form this question? We get afraid, right? We have fear that comes on us, right? When we want to
Hmm.
do something. For instance, when I first wanted to start podcasting and I turned on the camera and I'm like frozen, like nothing
Yeah.
would come out of my
Yeah. Yeah.
mouth,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm just like, and then as I started just doing it. It just had to start doing it despite the fear, despite everything. Then I started, maybe I sounded silly at first or I felt stupid, but like
Hmm.
what is your tricks to overcoming when you have that fear that you got to push past? Like is it just a push past thing or is there something else to it?
Well, I mean, if you can push back past, absolutely. I mean, and I think, sometimes we're able to do it, sometimes we're not. Or with
Yeah.
some things we're able to do it, and with others we're not.
Yeah.
And that's just true of everybody. And to me, honestly, that's part of the reason why when I coach people, I have cohorts
Right.
as part of the offering, is because people really, if you have people in your circles who have a very intentional rhythm, almost like a ritual with you of talking about the thing that you want to build, and they're building and you're building, and then I as a coach am also looking at you and going, have you done the thing that you committed last week to do?
Right.
you know that will accelerate and sort of overcome most of the barriers.
True.
And honestly, that's why I think coaching and investing in personal development like that is it's the best way to accelerate, because you want to take a car there where you want to go, or do you want to take a plane, right? Basically,
Right. Exactly.
and the dirty little secret of the most successful people out there is that they invest like maybe 10% of their fortunes, their time, their energy in constant personal development, like a
Yes.
lot, a
Oh
lot.
my gosh. Yes.
And that's the mere mortals usually don't know that that's there, so they're like,
Right.
how'd they get there? Well, this is how they got there. And but I would say, but you can still, like, if you can take a car and still get there, right? But it
Right.
just takes much more effort, more time,
Mhm.
and more, you have to just sort of figure out how to motivate yourself. And sometimes it's just hard to do. I
It's
was
so
working with
true.
I was working with someone on the media side, actually somebody who came in to be coached, and I coached them, and then he needed some help on the media side, on the personal brand development. So we're working on the media side, and it's so hard for him. And I had this conversation just a few days ago, so it's fresh in my memory. And he goes, man, it- we're making progress, but it's just so slow. It's so hard for me. And I go, yeah, but look where you are a month and a half into it. And I said, let me ask you, okay, so where you are a month and a half later, and you're so close to making some major changes, you know, it, if you were doing it on your own, would it take you 3 months, 6 months, a year? And he looked at me and he was like, actually, I don't think I would ever do it.
I
Uh,
know, right?
It's crazy, right?
It is. Like,
Yeah.
it really helps to have a
Yeah.
mentor or a coach. It really, really
Yeah.
does. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, it's not mandatory. Everybody is able to
No,
do it on
no,
their
you can
own,
do it on your own.
but
It's just
but
much
it
harder to do. That's all.
it is. It is. Just like with
Yeah.
losing weight, I'm pretty sure people who have like
Yeah.
what do you call them?
A coach. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a coach.
Or
But
nutritionist, right? Or
yeah,
both. Or
yeah,
both.
and you're following them because like then you have
Yeah.
that person that you have to report to, and it just I don't know, the
Hmm.
motivation is just it's just much
Yeah.
easier
Yeah.
with
I mean,
yeah.
we're just wired for that. We, as human beings, we just need community, and we need
Yeah, we
guidance.
do.
And
We
people are
do.
usually the best investment you can possibly make.
It's so true. So, because I had another question. I read your blog about your how faith
Hmm.
really,
Hmm.
upped everything for you,
Yeah.
right? So, and your background, you tell us a little bit about your religious background and how faith ended up helping you.
Well, I had a complete absence of religious background originally.
Yes, you did.
So, yeah, I was an atheist. My parents were atheists, and I sort of grew up in these environments where no one believed in God, like at all. And I recently just realized, oh my gosh, I don't think I've met personally anyone. I knew they existed, but anyone who believed in God until I was probably in my early 20s,
Oh, wow.
something like that,
That's a
which is
long
crazy,
time.
right? Like if you live in
Yeah, that is
America,
crazy.
of course, you have people who are religious, but not in the space that I was.
Right.
And so I have this complete vacuum, spiritually speaking. And then eventually I sort of started dabbling into it in New Age, Eastern philosophy, meditation, things like that. So it sort of opened me up to the sort of understanding that there's a spiritual world out there, that we're not just physical beings. And then when I was at the very peak of my music career, and I literally had a number one hit at the time, I was just, all the cracks came out, all the flaws in my character, and I was like clinically depressed. And I before that I looked at Christianity more like, I was very skeptical. Let's put it that way. I was more than skeptical. I was probably down on Christians, going, "Oh, you guys are just dumb." And
Yeah.
that was sort of my view at the time. And then I was so humbled by life and so depressed that somebody invited me to a church, and I'm like, all right, I guess, like I'm desperate enough to go.
What do I got to lose at this point?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I went, and then I was like, oh, maybe, and I met a guy who was that like this missionary guy, Canadian guy. And he was just it was almost like a different breed of person to me. I was like, who are you? You're like an alien, right? I have not met anyone like you. And I said, I feel like you have what I need, and would you please teach me? And he said, yeah, with the Bible, if you're okay with it. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll do it. And I literally 2.5 weeks later, I become a Christian and got baptized, changed my whole life, everything, like it's just like my entourage, everybody around me were like, yeah, that's
It
not,
put the soul back into your music and
yeah.
everything.
And people didn't believe. I had a terrible reputation, honestly, like, not a Christian reputation at all.
Right.
And so people, even my family, they were like, "What's wrong with you? Like, this is not you. This is not you." And they were like, "Yeah, it's just a phase. It's a." And I mean, and now I've been a Christian for almost 30 years, 27, 28, something like that. And it changed, really redirected my whole life. And part of the thing that I do now, you don't have to be a Christian to join my coaching program, but I do say,
Obviously not.
look, you I think it's important for you to understand that there's a spiritual reality out there. There are moral laws that guide the universe, and yeah, like if I want to help you, at least give me a chance to tell you that this thing exists, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if you're not aware, you're missing out on this major part of life that
Oh, so much.
actually affects you like in every possible way. So I'm not going to try to convert you, but I'm going to tell you that a transcendent practice is essential for a happiness, longevity, your health, your wealth, all of it. There's data about it, around it, gathered and researched by the Harvard University, right? That
Right. Yes.
the longest longitudinal study on human flourishing literally states, and it's a secular study, it states that one of the key four components of being happier, healthier, and wealthier and live longer is a spiritual practice. So
Yes.
this is objectively true. So it will be a disservice to the people that I serve, both publicly through my podcast newsletter or privately through my coaching, if I don't mention that, right? Because
It's true. No, you're no, I
so
get it 100%. Um,
exactly.
because like when I was reading that, I was like, oh, that so resonates with me because
Yeah,
that's how I
yeah.
feel too. Because there's because we all need to find our own personal like because I teach my kids, right? Because we're obviously Christian. So I teach my kids, what do we have faith in? Right? What
Hmm.
do we have faith in? If you have faith in, like, say, uh your your brother and he ends up making a terrible mistake like murdering someone, then your faith is going to crumble, right? But if you
Hmm.
have faith in God, who is never changing, right? He's always loving, he's always there, he's consistent, then your faith, then that's where your faith needs to lie, because he will never let you down. He will never. That doesn't mean you're not going to have trials in your life. It doesn't mean that life won't quite go the way you want it, but he will never leave you alone ever. And
Mm-hmm.
even in those times when you feel alone, you're not alone if you put your faith in him. And it's it. There was a quote by some guy that said, he said, whenever we talk about the nature of God in some way, somehow we are talking about the nature of ourselves, because we are creations of God. We are
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
his
And
children.
that's probably one thing that you can it's I think it's helpful to to impress that on people, right? Is that,
Yes,
look, ultimately you don't succeed, again going back full circle to the reason why we don't succeed. You don't succeed ultimately because you don't believe in yourself.
exactly. Yes.
And if you develop a spiritual practice, a transcendent practice, you will actually have faith in you at a much higher level.
Oh, yeah.
um, and I think that's just really essential, right? To to persevere, to do hard things, to overcome obstacles, to grow, to expand.
And that's
Um,
faith. You're having faith that it's going to
yeah,
work out when you do
yeah,
it,
yeah. And
one way
and
or
I
another.
really don't believe self-belief without the spiritual is effective or powerful enough, and healthy even in the first place, right? Because you can just
Exactly.
self-belief with no, yeah, it's a very sort of narcissistic belief, I would say,
Yeah.
without an understanding that you have been created wonderfully by
Yes.
a loving God. That's a very different
Exactly.
level of self-belief.
It
It's
really is, because I think especially women, they struggle a lot with, like, image and things like that.
hmm
They care a lot about their looks, and I'm sure you've seen on the internet and everywhere, women are always criticizing themselves. Oh, this is too big or that's too small. There's not enough hair, whatever, whatever. But
hmm
like, God created you, and and another woman on I forget what she said, but she was talking, because I was looking up exercises to improve myself a while ago, and anyway, and she says, you should stop walking by that mirror and criticizing yourself. I'm just like, I'm so fat, that's you are insulting the God who created you. He's just like, so
hmm
your body's going through changes. You had children. This is normal. It's okay. And you need to be like, you know what? Instead, turn that around, because before you can start doing any kind of exercising or health, changes, you need to first start with in here. And she says, you need to be saying, I'm so grateful that my legs work and I can walk. I'm so grateful,
hmm
whatever it is, you know, I'm so grateful that I can function and I'm able to do this. Like, start small, and
hmm
just like start appreciating how you are now. Then the changes will start
That's
happening.
right. Yeah, yeah,
But if
yeah.
you're
So
going into it with criticism with yourself, you're not going to accomplish anything. Nothing.
yeah, so I think a transcendent practice that can be developed daily. That you need, there's a lot there to learn, um, and on so many levels. But it can be very transformative for what we talked about, success, because it also adds significance to success. And that's why, when I focus my newsletter, it's success and significance, is that, if you're doing something, you can't really do it well or long enough or deep enough if there's no significance in the thing that you're doing.
Right.
So purpose driven people usually achieve more, basically.
Yes,
You know?
exactly. Exactly. It's okay that we're not perfect. It's
Yeah.
totally okay. We need to
Yeah.
be okay with that, because nobody's perfect. I think, on also a side note, because it's been coming up a lot, um, for me, like everywhere I go, there seems to be somebody who has, with the whole faith thing, they have religious trauma. Maybe
hmm
religion was shoved down their throat, or they had a parent or a
Yeah.
pastor, whatever. Maybe they used it with abuse. And so now they have like an absolute rejection to it, right? And a
hmm
rejection to God. But, and I want to hear what your advice is, but something that personally I've thought of is like, well, God was never in that. Any force or hatred or whatever, God wasn't in that. That
hmm
was humans being humans and making terrible decisions, right?
hmm
And everybody needs to find their own personal relationship with God because God wants every one of us to have a relationship with Him. He loves each one of us so much. And so your relationship with God doesn't need to be based on anybody else's opinion. And you need to find that relationship for yourself, like you did. You know, you came from anti, and yet
Mm.
you found your way, and God was ready to to receive you when you finally found him, and you had to find him your way though. And so what would your advice be, since you've kind of been down that road a little bit, about like whole anti, like with people who have experienced religious trauma?
What I would actually even take it a little bit further, and I'll tell you why. The so I've actually also experienced religious trauma, and through usually it was somebody who was in sort of in a position of authority under over me in the church. This was many years ago, but it was very, very abusive, right?
Oh
And
no.
this is a spiritual authority person, and so it caused me tremendous pain, and I had to go, through this program called grief recovery to sort of get over it and stop reacting and triggered by that. Um, I would say religious trauma is guaranteed, actually, if you want to really do it well, because of what you mentioned. People are fallen, people go off the rails all kinds of ways, and you will too, actually. You will hurt people. Even as a faith person, you will hurt other people,
Oh, definitely.
and they will be disillusioned in your spiritual life as well to the degree, right? So it
It's
goes both
true.
ways. Um, but I would say, sort of rewarding maybe what you said so well, um, that when people say things like, "Oh, those Christians," dot dot dot, right, or the church, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
uh, they are sort of missing the point. And the point is this: is that Jesus is the Jesus of the Bible that we read about is the real Jesus.
Yes.
Any sort of I say this to the people that I advise spiritually. I say, if the thing is no longer the thing, it stops being the thing. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
sort of, and basically what that means is, look, if you're in a toxic church community environment, and you stay, first of all, you shouldn't stay, you should leave, uh, and you are, of course, wounded, etc., etc. You do the work to heal, obviously, but don't say the church hurt me, because what hurt you was not the church.
Right.
When the thing stops being the thing, it's no longer the thing.
Yes.
Don't say a pastor, pastors, I don't trust pastors because I was hurt by a pastor. I was hurt by a pastor, right?
Right.
Well, because a pastor not acting as a pastor described in scripture is no longer a pastor.
Right.
You was just hurt by somebody who is probably wounded, hurt, um, perhaps power hungry, whatever, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. But they're
They're
not
human.
they're not representing Christ, um,
Exactly.
and that's just true. So why is that important to know? Is because you can't really just paint everything with the same brush, right? Christians with the same, or pastors, or church. Those are just really general terms, and to go further to what you said, when you said, you need to figure it out and find your personal relationship with God. I would say that not only do you have to find the personal relationship with God, you need to find a a faith community, because you are designed for the church in the
That's
Bible,
true. Yep.
and the church was designed for you.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe you went to a terrible church. Okay, it's not really a church then, right? Um, but you can't really thrive without a local community.
Yeah. Community is huge.
So you have you because you open the scriptures and you see that people are actually baptized into the church. So you can't just be this solo Christian. It doesn't work that way. That really doesn't match with the design of the
No,
Creator.
it doesn't, because in the scriptures, somewhere it says we're supposed to meet together oft,
Yeah,
and to fast and to pray together.
exactly. Encourage each other daily. Okay,
Exactly.
if you're a solo Christian, who are you going to encourage daily? Yeah, as a, like,
Exactly.
so you can't really function, you can't flourish in that mode. And yeah, maybe you're triggered by organized religion, maybe you're triggered by pastors or whatever. Okay, do the work. I had to do the work. It took me years to do the work and heal, and then find what the intent of the creator is for you to have a relationship with him and to have a relationship with others in Christ, and to make disciples, to actually
Yes.
tell other people about Christ and bring
Yes.
them to Christ and teach them to obey. You have to do all those things or you're not the thing. you
Yep.
know
Yep.
if you want to be the thing, hey, be the thing, right?
Be the
So
thing.
yeah,
Exactly.
so
I
so
love
anyway,
that. I
yeah,
like how you took that further. That was beautifully said. And it is so true. Just kind of like circling back a little bit too, how we talked about you get further when you have mentors. And
yeah,
with religion, you get further when you have a community.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
community is huge. And
absolutely.
keeping your faith on, focused on the savior, because like you said, because it's good to like have a pastor, right? And but then the pastor makes mistakes, so if your faith is solely you know ingrained into this,
Into this
invested into this
yeah, that
pastor, yeah, then your whole world is going to crumble
yeah,
if
oh,
the
absolutely.
pastor goes off the deep end, but if it's directed in the savior, then that well, he's a human and he makes mistakes, but God's going to make everything right in the end
Hmm.
regardless. So
Exactly.
okay, well, I don't know how much time you have, but we probably should wrap this up soon. But I wanted to come back and said, so let me go over my notes here. Um, okay, we went over that. What are some? Okay, here we go. What are your best? Give us your best skills or tools that you use to break unhelpful patterns in life, like patterns that hold us back from accomplishing our purpose in life or whatever we want to do. What are some of your greatest tools for being able to be, resilient and being able to, yeah, what's your practical tools that you use?
I'll probably say if you want, if you're talking about breaking patterns that are unhealthy, it would be a daily practice of I call that winning the day, right?
Oh, I like
A-
that.
And basically, and it's a very simple idea, but it's really powerful in the sense that most of us are essentially function on autopilot, and we basically repeat yesterday and just repeat it today. And then year after year, we keep doing the same things. Some of them healthy, some of them unhealthy. But we are where we are because your life is perfectly designed to get the results that you're getting right now, basically, right?
Right.
And that's how we function. So if you want to break patterns that are unhealthy, you have patterns that are healthy, but there are always patterns that are unhealthy and that are limiting. Is figuring out how to break almost like the software that is flawed. And
Yes.
so and
Reprogramming.
it's reprogramming, yeah, that's what and basically it's a practice that I teach and train in, and it's every morning. It's spending about an hour and a half doing these three things: um, contemplation, prayer, journaling. So there's all kinds of kind of contemplative practice, but say like a contemplative practice helps you develop this ability to see yourself outside of yourself. It's called metacognition, right?
Okay.
It's the ability to think about you, about your feelings, about where you want to go more objectively and not subjectively, not from the inside out, but from the outside in. So that's a contemplative practice. Then the other thing is physical movement every single day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that there's like, I can't go into all kinds of details, but it's an extraordinary um, tool, not only for physical development, but for mental development, for cognition, et cetera, et cetera. Cognitively, you grow, you become smarter if
That
you.
makes so much sense.
And then the third one is learning something new every day, and that's all packed in the first hour of the day.
Oh, wow. I
So
love
in the
that.
first hour of the day, you contemplate, you move, and you learn. Um,
I love that.
so if you figure out that practice called first hour, winning the day, right? That's really the most powerful thing you can do to break a pattern.
I love that. And that's because, like, People, so many people, especially moms, suffer with have a hard time with self-care. They're always like, I'm too busy, push it aside.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
having that time where you're like taking time to, doing the other people might even call it meditation. I like what you called it.
Hmm.
But like and journaling and movement and taking that time to do that, it sets your whole day off so much better. Like as you're telling me this, I'm like, oh, I've started doing that, and it's actually made a world of a difference in my life. So I for years I just stopped exercising or doing anything altogether because I was just too busy. It seemed like an inconvenience. But then I finally said, you know what? I'm feeling horrible inside and out. I've got to do
Hmm.
something. So I'm like, I'll just 5 minutes of something. So I just started every day, 5 minutes something. And as I started to enjoy it, I increased it. And now there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not doing my movement and I'm not
Hmm.
taking that time to like, and I usually spend about an hour, setting my day up, and it makes a huge difference. I just need to add in the whole, I don't do the journaling part. I keep
Yeah, yeah.
hearing that and I'm like, oh, okay, I should do that.
Yeah,
But
it takes a while to
yeah,
learn these things, but my point is, it is an absolute sort of performance booster, you know.
it really, yeah, I can
And
see. Yeah.
so you can become high performance just based on that one thing, and there's more things you can do actually to become a high performance. So yeah, that's it.
That
That's the answer.
that's beautiful. I love it. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too long, so we'll wrap this up. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? Anything that you'd like to
I
add?
would say, look, most people make this mistake of aiming towards the middle because they're avoiding risk and they have low self-esteem and they don't understand just what they're capable of, right? And most people
Yes.
literally underestimate what they're capable of. So what they do is they go to the safe and they go, okay, I'm not gonna aim too high. I'm gonna make here because I have more certainty that way, and that's
Yes.
the biggest mistake you can make. And the reason for that is because if if you imagine most people aim for the middle and not high, then the middle is super crowded. So it's
Oh my
harder
God.
to succeed in the middle.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. That is a really good
yeah,
analogy.
yeah. But if you aim high, there's actually very few people there, right?
That's true.
So it's much easier to succeed if you aim high, and that's sort of
Wow.
one pearl of wisdom that I want to leave people with.
That was mind blowing. That was really well said.
Hmm.
I love Thank you so much. Will you please I want people to be able to find you.
Yeah.
So I already have your link to your newsletter, but if you have a link to where people can buy your book
Hmm.
or any other links that you
Sure,
would
you can
like
go to
to
Amazon and
anything.
just Google my name in Amazon,
Okay.
Christian Ray Flores, and you'll find the book right
Okay, and I'll put
away.
those in the show notes so people
And
can click
then,
on and find you.
yeah, so the newsletter is a great place to just receive something in your inbox twice a week that is just really good, well developed stuff to get you going and to upgrade your life a little bit.
I love it. And
Uh,
can people do online coaching with you?
Yes, they can. Yeah. So
Okay.
if you're listening to this and you go, "Oh, I want more than a newsletter. I want you to
Yes.
help me." Go to exponential.life and it's spelled without the E, so it starts with an X.
Okay.
Uh, and that's basically the website for coaching. You'll get sort of the gist of it in broad strokes. There's also a really good assessment there that I give away for free. I use this with my clients. It's called the Exponential Scorecard. And what it does, it asks you a bunch of questions. You can complete it in about 5 minutes, and you get a report in your inbox of the sort of almost like the state of your life along the most important dimensions of life. And I just think that it's really helpful and very important to know where you are if you want to go somewhere else because you know what the starting point is. So that's a free assessment there. And of course, if you can reach out and set up a call and learn more, and we can learn about you, and if it's a fit, maybe we can work together.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christian. I really appreciate you being on my podcast today, my show. It's been a delight. And thank you so much for all your inspiration and all of your insights. I really, really hope that anyone who listens to this gets inspired and that their life can become just that much more better.
Buffy, thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great day.